maybe Tim, you something to share about your first, let's say your first absorption experiences?
Yeah. Um, I relate with John too. I didn't really do a lot of reading um at all, really, until like a couple years ago. But my first experience with absorption was when I was 12. It was like 20 something years ago. And yeah, I was just curious about meditation, so I just Googled how to meditate. And like I just went I found this like the first search result and it showed like three different types of meditation. And the one that felt most, I guess the one that I connected with most was Zazen. And it was just like, okay, you just like breathe to 10 and then reset with each breath. And then when you really get deep in the flow, then it's like like every breath cycle is one. And then just kind of like a feedback loop where you can see if you've fallen off track. And I just sat and it was the first time I really like even watched my breath. As a 12-year-old, I just really didn't give a shit about that. Um, so yeah, I just like started breathing. I was like, oh, this is an interesting experience. Just like focusing on my breath. And um I know it was like I remember I was like in my room and it was like 4 or 5 and it was like bright outside. And I just slowly start breathing and like realizing like, oh, like my breath, I can feel it and it's like really big. And then as I got more into the state of like just being one with my breath, and then what I noticed was when I got into like the deeper count of like every cycle is one, then I just saw that like I could just almost like inhale and exhale at the same time, actually. And I started doing that. And then like it just came to a point where it was just like almost even. Like, and I just like felt like I didn't have to breathe anymore. And I just like stayed with that. And then from that point, like I don't know how much time had passed, but like basically I had like my first awakening experience at that point, where just like I just like went beyond time and space and like I had like yeah, I just had like an experience of mm, like complete blankness, and then from there, it like went to this other space of like every question that can arise in my mind was like immediately answered, and like it just sat in this like deep absorption of just like everything being clear, everything being answered. Um, and then when I got out of that state, it felt like 15 minutes or so, but it was actually like 3 or 4 hours because like it was already dark outside. And yeah, it was a trip because when you're 12, especially I don't know back in the 90s or whatever, there's like no real language to describe that kind of experience. Um, like I don't know, like I don't know how a 12-year-old would begin to describe that. And yeah, so like there was this like experience of like okay, there's this state, and then like there's like maybe like a spiritual ego that arose at that time too, which is like oh like I can see outside of reality and I don't know what reality is anymore, but it's not being a lemming. And so then I just like created so much distance between like myself and everybody else. And then I couldn't tell anybody about it. So that made even more distance. And so I became a solo practitioner at the tender age of 12. So that's what happened.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially at that age. I think I was just playing on my PlayStation or playing some football outside. I cannot imagine having such experiences by then.